Welcome to the scene, on the scene that is. I'm Racheal J, your host, and I have a special co-host today, Mr. Damian Russell, aka Flavius. Okay, you know that print guy? Yeah, that's him. He does so much more. He's actually a musician, so I asked him to come on and come down here so we can check out CGQ, also known as the Chris Greene Quartet Jazz Band. So we have, to my left, we got Mark. Mark, what is your instrument?
I play the bass.
Mark is on that bass, and then we got Chris.
Ooh, I play saxophone and I book the gig. So.
Oh yeah, Chris in the house, and we got Steve.
I play drums.
Yay! And then we got Damian.
I play keys.
All right, so we
do
got.
I.
Hey.
Damian play the keys.
So we have this wonderful band here who've been on the Chicago scene, well known on the Chicago scene since 2005.
Yep.
You know, making some, and the great thing about them is that this is the original band. You know, how often do you have a band that stays together, that type of longevity? You know, so let us know. You know, how do you have that type of longevity?
It's a good thing. A quick question. I'm lucky enough to have guys that want to stick around and want to develop some music, and so each one of these guys are talented writer, composers in their own right, and I think it works because everybody's opinion is valuable. You know, I'm the leader of the band, but I kind of function as kind of the musical director, quote unquote. You know, but everyone's got their kind of say in a certain song, like the arrangement and everything. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's a lot of collaboration. It's not like, you know, I'm the head, hey, you just do. No, it's a lot of, and that's probably why you have that longevity, because it's, you know, it's a team. You know, that's a big deal. So, hey.
Just hearing you guys for a few minutes, just downstairs, you sound good. So my question, how do you get together and practice? You know, each one having maybe a different life. Like, what's the come together to get down and practice?
Well, I think part of it is that Chris keeps us working very regularly. So somebody made a comment to us yesterday how often you guys actually rehearse. And it's really not that often unless we have, you know, like a big show coming up or something like that. But you know, Chris books the group so regularly that we're able to do, and some of the gigs we do are not like super high pressure gigs. So we can, if we have those kind of gigs, we'll use them as open rehearsals, workshop tunes. You know, but like when we recorded this last record, I don't think we rehearsed like at all the record. We had just played a whole bunch of gigs. The tunes sounded good. Right. We went in the studio and recorded.
That's usually how it works.
Oh, that's good. So each one here, you make sure you play yours at home. You practice. Yeah. You come together, and it comes together.
Yeah. I think it's important. I think a lot of the practicing comes on our own.
Right.
You know, and then not per se, you know, together. We're all working on stuff, and I always work on the tunes. They may not think it, but I work on the tunes. I work on the tunes, you know, trying things different. Like, what can I do? You know, some tunes we've been playing a long time, so what can I do different in this tune just to make it, you know, make it more fun for myself?
Because the goal at the end of the day is to make, you know, if you hear a song, something that we're doing, say a year ago, the goal is to make it should sound different. We should be better as a band and individually as well. But the song should be different. It should sound different than it sounded like a year or so ago.
Well, it's actually kind of funny as far as that goes, because every once in a while, very rarely, but every once in a while we'll use a sub on a gig. Chris goes out of his way to make sure that the same group of guys, the four of us, are on every gig. But occasionally gigs come up when we have to use a sub, and we'll give them old recordings to learn, and then we'll get on the set and realize, like, well, wait, we don't play the tune like that anymore, because it's just evolved, you know, and we don't remember because it's very incremental. But you know, so a tune that we recorded, you know, 8 years ago, we're playing it totally differently now.
Oh wow! So that's nice. There's growth. There's evolution. That's wonderful. And you guys recently won, you know, award for, you know, best jazz entertainer. So tell us about that.
It was a pleasant surprise. We got nominated. We got this notice that I got nominated. And you know, it's one of those things where you try not to let it get too crazy or let it get too trippy about it. But it's like how can I use this? You know, how can I use this to my advantage?
Right.
So you don't necessarily want to be like, you know, I won this award, but you know, it does change things when you walk into a room of other musicians. It's like, you know, you doing?
Right.
How's it going? I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, that's mine.
That's
yeah.
mine. We can still talk, but just so you know. Just so you know.
And Damian and I were just commenting to each other the other day. We've worked very hard at this for a very long time.
Right.
You know, and it's nice to get a little pat on the back. You know,
Yeah,
even if you
absolutely.
don't, even if it doesn't give you any money or whatever, to have somebody be like, you guys are a good band. You're the best best jazz entertainer in Chicago or whatever. It's nice to get that.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
And
We in Chicago, that's heavy competition.
Right. But to your point, we are a band.
Right.
A lot of groups around the city are just a lot of great players put together. Like let's
Right,
play
just
some
kind of thrown
tunes.
together. Let's do this.
But we are a group, and we've grown. We grow together on everything. So it's not like I'm playing with 20 different groups here, and and he's playing with 10 different groups. A lot of our playing comes with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm joking around about like what other musicians think, but at the end of the day, like as nice as like the pat on the back is, like these awards, they don't, they won't write the music or they won't book the gigs. It's a nice little pat on the back, but it's just kind of like, okay, you've still got a mountain of work, a mountain of things that you want to do with the band and as a individual musician. There's things that I want to be able to do better next year, and I want to be a better writer, and
Right.
so these are all it's a confidence builder. But I mean, I'm joking around, but it's also like, okay, the work is just begun too.
Right, absolutely. And do you guys all do your individual things, like your solo careers outside of the band, or is it just more of working with the band?
For me, this is probably the group that I play with most regularly.
Okay.
But I mean, all of us do freelance stuff, so if we're free at night and somebody calls and they need a piano player, bass player, drummer, whatever, we do those gigs. But I think part of the thing is that has helped this group, is that we believe enough in what Chris is doing. And he goes out of his way to make sure that we're not taking like $20 gigs on a Friday night,
Right.
or whatever. He makes sure that we're getting paid what we're worth. So that if get another call for a gig, but we've got a gig with him, we don't. Oh no, I'm going to take the gig that pays better. Chris makes
Right.
sure that he takes care of us. So.
Plus, I think we've got enough notoriety now that we're booking gigs far out. We're booking 3 and 4 months out. So it helps that we're always able to prepare for it.
Right.
Have stuff on the books. Fill in the spaces with other freelance stuff.
Okay,
Right.
that's pretty good. So it's consistent and it's stable. It sounds like it's getting.
Isn't there some Duke Ellington quote or something that you use sometimes?
Yeah, I don't know if it's Duke or Dizzy Gillespie. I think he said the best way to keep a working band is to keep a band working.
Right,
So-
right, right.
So it's just like and I mean, obviously they're like musicians like artistic fulfillment, but they also like to be employed too.
Yes, nice.
I'm trying to walk that precarious line, like come with me and you can have our musical jollies, but at the same time, there's somewhat steady work too as well. So
Absolutely.
Well, being from Chicago, you guys you book your events well out. I'm here from Chicago. I play music too.
okay,
And so one of the nice places I like to go to is the Green Mill.
okay,
You guys ever play there?
yeah, a few times actually, yeah. But
Now you're on the map. You're on the map. when you play at the Green Mill, that's it.
Yeah.
I love the ambiance. I was telling her, but
It's a great room.
really nice.
yeah, whatever. It's a great room to play.
Good.
Wow. So y'all, see, I'm not from here. I'm originally from Oklahoma, so I'm learning the spots.
Sure.
The Chi-Town, it's a lot of them. I'm like, oh my God, this is the spot too. Okay, this is the spot. So yeah, he was speaking highly of the Green Mill. So
It's an iconic Chicago place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
7 nights a week.
Yeah. Super late at night,
And I think we've played every room in Chicago though too.
Mhm.
really, so
Yeah,
one of
pretty
what
much.
your faves, just out of, I know it's a lot, but just
Yeah, some rooms have a real good ambiance and make you feel it's a feeling.
Yeah, I like different rooms for different reasons.
Yeah.
I think the Green Mill's got really great sound, and it's got a nice vibe and everything.
Yeah.
People
There's
are
always
really
good crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Kind
crowd.
of a mixture between like a neighborhood pub, but they have like top-notch entertainment there as well. So
Any room that's a list for me. Any room that's a listening room where people are actually there to listen to what
Right.
you're doing. You know, you have some establishments. You know, it's really a restaurant. Just happens to have music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, some places music is the forefront. So
Yeah.
And the good thing, we've been lucky enough to play a lot of those types of rooms lately. And so the cool thing is that you get, I guess, and the double-edged sword is you get used to that. So if you have to play a restaurant gig, it's just like, why aren't these people paying attention? I don't even realize.
But conversely, when we play a room like that, it's a little bit freaky that everybody's like quiet and paying attention to you.
Mhm.
They're not like clinking their glasses around and talking to their friend.
Right.
Or working,
You're like, hey, check in. You know.
But it's good. But I do, like Steve said, I do like it is fun playing listening because they're there to see the music, and they're there to enjoy what you're doing. So I like that.
So when we do come out to enjoy a night with the Chris Greene, Quartet Jazz Band, what kind of music styles can we expect to hear?
Hopefully a little bit of everything.
It's
all over the map.
Just about everything. One thing, and I always say this, we're we love all our jazz heroes. Coltrane, Ellington, Mingus, Thelonious Monk, all those people, and we listen to them constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But we are all, we're all products of our upbringing as well. So,
Right.
I came up listening to, primarily disco and soul and funk,
Mm-hmm.
and before I was a jazz musician, so a lot of the tunes that I bring to that band kind of have that kind of bent to them. So,
Right.
And it's one of those things where like I tried, when I started the band a long time ago, I was like, I'm going to write the great classic American jazz tune, and everything I would write, it would just kind of end up being, it wouldn't end up being funky, but it just seemed to my tunes just tend to seem to gravitate that way, and I was like, okay, somebody's trying to tell me something about being
Right.
true and being honest, so if that's, and everyone's got their own kind of influences, and they bring it to the pot, so.
So what are your different influences? What the thing you really bring in?
for me, I think I have a very strong root in gospel. I think about 95% of drummers of color anywhere in the city started in church.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I think that's what I bring as far as to the group is that feel, that feel,
Yes.
and it's passion. I mean,
Right,
the
right.
passion to the music. So, I think that's my niche that I bring to the group.
Absolutely. What about you, Damian?
Well, I grew up listening to a bunch of 80s hair band music.
All right
So,
now.
so I like to, I have some of that, I guess, kind of Guitar Hero stuff where I like to kind of shred a little bit. But I guess the way that I approach my instrument in terms of this group is that I feel like I am I support with color.
Mm-hmm.
I add, we got a great rhythm section, and I'm bridging that gap, or bridging the space with color.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to support, making sure that Chris has got a good, underpinnings, trying to, jockey with him a little bit, push him in certain directions, or respond to what he does,
Mm-hmm.
And lay that just kind of nice foundation, I guess.
Yeah.
A foundation above the other foundation.
You don't do too much foundation. What about you, Mark?
Well, my dad is a musician also. He's a trombone player, so I heard all kinds of music growing up. From classical stuff to Blood, Sweat and Tears and Stanley Clarke and Return of Forever and King Crimson. When I was growing up, I got really into like prog rock, so like King Crimson and Yes and Rush and bands like that. And then I starting in about middle school, and probably still the strongest influence on my writing is Frank Zappa. And I actually did some independent studies on him in college and stuff. So he's probably my strongest influence as a composer. But it's pretty hard. Like I was talking the other day, somebody was like, "Well, if you had to say who most influenced your upright playing, who would it be?" And I sort of jokingly said Geddy Lee. He was a bass player for Rush. He's not an upright player, you know. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I think there is like, I mean, I hear his lines a lot in my head, you know. So
kind of interesting that you said that, because like in my head when I'm playing, I mean, obviously there's, you know, the saxophone hero Charlie Parker, Coltrane stuff coming out, but behind all of that, for some reason, is it seems goofy, but like Prince is back there somehow, kind of manipulating the strings and like kind of making me play certain rhythms against what Steve is doing or whatever. And it's just kind of like, so that's kind of, you know, we're jazz historians, each one of us, but we're, you know, it's 2018, and
right.
we're very much, you know, some of us got to jazz earlier than others. I really didn't get serious about it till like the end of high school, but we've all got various backgrounds and various kinds of things. So.
Right.
Well, I think like, I mean, when you talk about bass players, I mean, I've transcribed a million, you know, Paul Chambers lines and you know, Ray Brown lines and like classic jazz stuff. So it's like he's talking about, and we're all very studied in sort of the jazz tradition.
Right.
You know, but when I want to talk about like what kind of like in my stomach, you know, then I start thinking about like, Stanley Clarke was the whole reason why I picked up the bass. You know, but the bass players that I really admired growing up, those are the ones that are like in you, you know.
That's awesome. And what about you?
Well, I'm classical. It's funny. I grew up playing classical music from Rachmaninoff, Mozart, Liszt, and so it was real difficult getting into jazz and blues because by doing classical, it's like I had no rhythm because I read. I did a lot of music reading, and so that had to change. But now I'm currently in a band. It's hard to get together sometimes because of families and things of that nature.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's who inspired me. Classical. I'm a classical guy. But you guys, I've seen you guys play downstairs, and I just can't wait to hear you, Mambra. Our host here, Racheal here. We excited today, and we're gonna have some fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, we got to wrap it up because these guys got to go get on stage. We're going to come live with some of their music. I'm so excited. We're here with CGQ, Chris Greene Quartet Jazz Band. I'm your host, Racheal J. You're on the scene. Stay tuned. We got more for you. Damian.